This trip beyond the driveway took us to Washington, D.C. to explore the National Mall and monuments. But before we get into the details, I want to say a few words about our nation's capital. It is in fact our capital. Throughout American history, all of us who pay taxes contributed to its construction. And from what we saw, it was money well spent. You can't help but recognize the permanency and meaning in the way everything was constructed. It's evident that tremendous care and thought went into every detail. Now, the National Mall itself is not about politics. It's about our nation's history and the people that shaped it and made sacrifices for it. I encourage everyone to visit. Bring your family. You won't be disappointed. And if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to this channel. The subscribe button is right down here. All you have to do is press it. You don't want to miss a single adventure. The National Mall covers more than 300 acres and is 1.2 miles in length. It holds 2 Smithsonian museums, the National Gallery of Art, and several cultural and other museums. Beyond the mall lies more than a dozen memorials dedicated to former presidents, influential individuals, and the men and women who served in wars throughout our history. Our first stop is the National Gallery of Art. It houses over 150,000 works from all periods and in all artistic mediums. Every turn of the head is met with one stunning piece after another. You could spend days just slowly taking everything in. We find it very interesting that today's artists can apply to paint their own version of the masters. Once approved, the gallery provides an easel, stool, and drop cloth. The artist is then free to paint at their leisure. Everyone we met doing this was happy to talk about their passion for the piece they were painting. Next, off to the Library of Congress. From the outside, you have no idea that it is such a work of art on the inside. The library originally opened in 1800. It was destroyed by the British in 1814, rebuilt, and repopulated with nearly 6,500 volumes from Thomas Jefferson's personal library. Today, the library houses more than 162 million items in several buildings throughout the Capitol. Those with a reading card can access the reading room to conduct research using the library's resources. On day 2, we toured the U.S. Capitol building. The left side is the Senate chambers, and the right side is the House of Representatives chambers. The middle, under the Grand Dome, is the Capitol Rotunda. You can't visit the chambers without arranging a tour by your state representative, so we opted for the next best thing, the tour offered by the U.S. Capitol Visitor Center. A quick note on tours. If you want to visit the U.S. Capitol, the Library of Congress, or the White House, plan way ahead. There is a link to the tour sites in the description for this video. The first stop on the tour was the Capitol Rotunda. Its statues and paintings depict 400 years of American history. Abraham Lincoln and John F. Kennedy were laying in state in this room. The dome itself is a piece of art rising 180 feet above the rotunda floor. From there, the tour moved to the National Statuary Hall. If a state isn't represented by a statue in the rotunda, it is represented here. The statues depict notable individuals from each state. A state can change its statue as often as it wants. The last stop on the tour was the crypt. George and Martha Washington were supposed to be buried there, but they were never moved from Mount Vernon. Basically, it's a room that houses the columns supporting the rotunda floor. Interesting though, it was once a parking area for anyone bicycle commuting to the Capitol. Unfortunately, the Supreme Court was not offering tours, nor was it in session, so a walk-by would have to do. At this point, we were tired, thirsty, and hungry. We headed to the Old Epic Grill, the oldest saloon in Washington, established in 1856. We loved sitting at the bar. It was packed, but we had a great lunch. Day 3 was spent exploring the monuments on the western end of the National Mall. The Vietnam Memorial is moving to see. It is not visible if you approach from the north because it sits below ground level. The marble monument begins at either end only inches tall, reaching a maximum height of 10 feet in the center. It stretches nearly 500 feet in length. Etched into the wall are more than 58,000 names of soldiers who either died or are missing in action from that war. The Lincoln Memorial represents his acts to end slavery and to preserve the fragile Union of the United States. The memorial was used in 1963 to further expand freedom by Martin Luther King. He delivered his "I Have a Dream" speech from the steps overlooking the reflecting pool and the Washington Monument. The Korea Memorial honors more than 36,000 Americans who lost their lives in the conflict. It's almost chilling to see the statues that appear to be moving through the memorial as they would have through the battlefields. The Martin Luther King Memorial stands impressively overlooking the Potomac tidal basin. It was surrounded by the beginnings of the spring cherry blossom bloom. Our last stop for the day was the Franklin Delano Roosevelt Memorial. There are so many facets to his memorial because he served as president for a little more than 12 years, from 1933 to 1945. He served during World War II and the bulk of the Great Depression, and he created the CCC, which put Americans back to work on public projects. That was it for our tour of Washington, D.C. We saw a lot, but there was so much more left to see. We'll be back again. Maybe we'll see you there when we do. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, and we'll see you on the road.